2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and the Bean universe. Lesbo and the Bean. LATB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Heavy duty weekend 117 going down. Breakdown 226 on the way. We have all of the fights still on the books. And here's a little quick thing. This is the first time in a long time I can say everybody has a photo on the UFC roster for the schedule 226. This card,
that's a big deal,
is one of the best of the year by far. How have you been?
No shadow fighters, but even more importantly, if you're an American, you're celebrating your independence today. We're getting the show out early.
Yep.
Bright outside. No chance of any interruptions from fake bombs. I mean fireworks, depending on how you feel about that sort of thing.
Good point. Definitely, if you are a veteran and or a
house cat
pet, if you didn't have time to get a prescription, little Benadryl, literally half a tablet for animals. Humans can take one or two at a time. Read your directions, but that's for your stateside people. Everyone else in the country, or in the world, I mean, feel free to drop a little bit of gin and juice on the ground for that Constitution.
And you know we're ignorant here. I don't know if it's any other country's Independence Days as well.
No.
Nowhere around the world?
Nope, it's America.
Just America.
But America parties going on around the world. Feel free. But it is a Wednesday.
Expats?
No, there's a funny, interesting thing where we have ethnic parties in the States or whatever, like Mexican parties and whatnot, or I've seen people do it. It's weird. I just do regular parties and they call them Mexican parties.
You're like, I'm just going to my parents' house.
But they're doing American parties where they have red cups, everyone wears a flag, and they get sloshed. Like, that's the theme. Wearing American flags and red cups is a major thing. And PBR. I think they import a lot of PBR.
We actually did one of those parties this year. Yeah.
And we had a good point here in America.
In good America. If T-Rex and Tim Allen, America.
Fucking very good point. Woo! That's getting my blood boiling right there.
T-Rex, Tim Allen, and a T-Bone. Woo! Let's get into 226.
Getting warm, getting hot. Starting off from the bottom of the top, though, we have.
Do you know how I got here?
Fight.
I was running down a tunnel and I jumped into a closet, fireball behind me, but guess what? Golden Retriever made it just in time, shut the door, fireball down the way. That's how I'm celebrating.
That sounds real. I feel like I can visualize that. I feel like I've seen it before in my life. What an Independence Day to have. But
I'm celebrating my Independence Day like Vivica A. Fox. That would be my t-shirt. You know you're really celebrating the 4th of July if you're doing it like Vivica A. Fox.
Damn. Disgrace she wasn't brought back in number 2. Just throwing that out there. So.
There was a number 2?
Yeah.
Oh!
Boy!
If you really want to get down, 2 can play at that game, do yourself the favor. Check that movie out, Vivica A. Fox. Okay, let's get into 226.
So, Banana vs. Close starts off the Vegas Fight Night Saturday. We have Fight Pass FS1 moving into the pay-per-view, but Banana vs. Close, both of these guys have had a few fights in the UFC at 155 pounds. Premier division. These two are two fighters moving forward. They're both coming off of a loss. I believe Banana came off of a marijuana suspension. He won a split decision over Bobby Green, but lost prior to that to Timur, and has a win over Medeski, which Banana, alpha male, good wrestling. Tony Ferguson was his entry into the UFC. We know what Banana comes in to do. He bangs hard, takes a lot of shots, has a good gas tank, but can get rocked in there with wild punches. Drakkar Klose, the Cologne himself, makes every single fight he's been in so far way too close. At 8-1, he's definitely uses his wrestling in there, but can, as much as Banana can be stagnant in there at times, Klose is even worse. He definitely throws like 1.6 punches per minute
Who
And tries a lot of takedowns.
until this for just now, the whole time I've been breaking down Venata versus Close in my head, I thought we really saw Close fight Mike Perry in Orlando.
No, that was Max Griffin.
I really thought that. Like, I'm like, oh shit. So now I have to re-break down the fight in my head and pick a new fighter because I'm like, what? How is he such an underdog? He's easily going to walk in there and...
Yeah, huge, big difference. 170 pounds to 55, which we actually do have that 55 versus 70 are coming up later on the night. That's how fun this fight night's going to be. Either way, Drakkar can get a sturdy-ass split in here, but I do think Venata just edges it out with the cardio a bit more and a bit more activity. The wrestling isn't going to come into play with Venata's wrestling credentials off of Mayo as well. I got Venata decision. First fight of the night. Is this a stay away or can you play this? Because
I don't think it's worth playing. I think you stay away from this all day. I think this is as close can get.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is. It really is.
And this, what a way to start off the night. What a way to start off the night.
This is a hell of a fun fight.
You guys want to split? You're going to get a dirty split decision. That's how I feel about this fight.
I agree. I think it could be a dirty split, but for the lack of activity more than anything.
I just have Drakkar Close. I still think it's going to be really close, and I think he pulls out a dirty split.
So, Venata 9,000 on DraftKings to the 7,200 for Drakkar Close. Definitely staying away from Venata. I do see a decision in this fight. The betting odds...
I don't like the way Landau is wearing his damage lately. Each fight is just getting worse and worse. Like his skin's getting softer and softer. His nose is getting like more broken and more broken. I know that's true for a lot of fighters, but he does take a lot of damage to give the shots he gives. Totally.
The betting favorite, though, here, minus 185 for Venata. You have a big underdog at plus 160 for Close. I could see a decision bet in there for Close, and you might be able to make your money back on that. I'm not going to be too far forward on that. We have so many other fun ones to break down.
Yeah.
At strawweight, 115 pounds, we have Emily Whitmire versus Jamie Boyle. Both of these ladies have fought in the UFC. Whitmire being 2-2 in her career, losing her only 2 fights on the show and in the UFC to Jillian Roberts 7 months ago, submission armbar. Jamie Boyle also lost her debut to Viviana Pereira a year ago. Actually, she won her debut against Caitlin Curran, then lost to Pereira. Jamie Boyle was also on the show, lost to Bobby Kuba, and Boyle is gonna be the older fighter by 2 years at 29 years old. She's also gonna end up being the shorter fighter by 5 inches at 5'1", to Whitmire's 5'6". Whitmire's taller than most ladies in there. On this stacked fight card, this is one of the few fights that I'm like, all right, go make them nachos, because this might go all the way to the end of the decision. Actually, I feel like their ground games neutralize each other. Moyle's a little bit better, but both of their takedowns are not good at all. Striking-wise, they're both getting better, but neither one's going to blow you out and knock you out anytime. I see it either being a striking, slow match, and on the ground, it's just going to be a position-based match. I think Moyle can get the advantageous positions a little bit more, but I might like Whitmire's gas tank a little bit more. This has dirty-ass split. Stay away all day. I'm going Moyle decision. Don't feel comfortable in that at all.
I don't even need to add any more time to it. Let's get to that's exactly how I feel.
So do we even want the actual DraftKings? Jamie Moyle 9,200 against Whitmire 7,000. Stay away from that on DraftKings. That's a trap. Bet. 100%.
That's a trap.
That's a trap.
That's a trap.
Definitely. But on to the 155-pound division. Fight of the night contender. This is such an amazing fight. We have Gilbert Burns versus Daniel the Hangman Hooker. Both of these guys are somewhat up-and-comers. Burns has been a little more exploited with his 13-2 record. Only 2 losses in the UFC to Michel Prazeres and Rashid Magomedov. But prior to that, we have a 2-fight winning streak against Dan Moret, who is short notice, and Jason Sago, who's no longer in the UFC. The 31-year-old Burns likes to strike in there and really has fallen into this wrestling jiu-jitsu guy who knocks out one guy and says, I'm a knockout artist, and then gets tooled up and decisioned. He was losing the Cowboy, Brazilian Cowboy, decisively, and in that third round was like, oh, I can get a takedown and beat this guy on the ground because that's the way to beat him, but decided to strike for 2 rounds. Somebody with heavy power will finish you before then, and Daniel Hooker is getting there. He's moved up from 145. His elbows and footwork are advancing so much. The young man at 28 years old is really starting to come on into his own. At 16-7, I don't think his record reflects that. I think in the UFC it's been much better. His only loss coming to Jason Knight in a fight of the night contender, coming off 3 in a row. Hangman, again, the footwork, the inside knee, he's really using his length advantageously with his elbows when he's stepping in on him, but he's also using that front kick up the middle that hurts a lot of people, and Burns is really susceptible to that. The ground is where it's gonna be scary. I got Hangman keeping it standing because I love that whizzer that he's been throwing in there a lot, and Burns has really shitty entries on his takedowns. They're powerful, but going into second and third as well, Burns gasses a whole lot more. I got Hooker TKO round number 3. Who do you have in this fight?
I got Daniel Hooker as well, but I just have him by decision. I don't want to play him too heavily. I think he's going to have to spend a lot of time with a strong, I think at least the first round, maybe into the second, he's going to have a really strong Gilbert Burns with these horrible takedowns that you're talking about, just hugging onto his waist right up against the fence where he's going to have to try to figure out without taking a bunch of damage. I think he's going to land more strikes and elbows holding these ugly clinches for a majority of the fight, but by the time, I think his speed's going to stay there as the fight goes on. I think he's going to progressively land more punches as the fight goes on. I think Gilbert Burns is going to slowly get deteriorated with the takedowns that he doesn't get, and he doesn't have great cardio, and then I like Daniel Hooker here, like I like there's like a couple other fighters. I think it's like who is that guy? I don't even want to compare him.
We'll get there. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Anyways, I really like Daniel Hooker here. I like him going forward with the UFC. I think Gilbert Burns is a guy that's gonna hold place, but I don't see him ever really making a run for the tops of the division. But I do kind of feel this for Daniel Hooker. I think he could make a run at the top of the division.
Dan Hooker minus 125 against Gilbert Burns plus 105. That's close to a coin flip. That's almost 115. I bet you that turns there. On DraftKings, 8,500 for Hooker, 7,700.
It's going to be more
Gilbert
of a
Burns.
grind.
I agree. I think this one should be more of that, like 8,000 kind of a close fight.
Yeah, it could
Fun
be.
one. Fight of the night contender. Fight of the night. It's going to be a grueling,
Well,
grueling
if Daniel
match.
Hooker has anything to do with it, it could be a fight of the night contender. If Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight, it's going to be slow and boring.
We will see. Fun. On to the 170-pounders. We do have Max Griffin, aforementioned Max Griffin, against Curtis Melender. The courteous Melender against Mike. What do we have? Payne. I like Max Payne Griffin. I definitely like that. But either way, Griffin 14-4, getting his biggest win against Mike Perry in Orlando just about 4 months ago. We were there watching that live. It turned out to be in a really slow, slugging type of affair against Melender's TKO win off of Thiago Alves over 4 months ago as well. Prior to that, he came in from the LFA and a contender series. Melender, at 30 years old, is 2 years younger and definitely striking-based Muay Thai striker. Devastating knees, elbows, straight punches. Max Griffin, all the way around, is an MMA fighter. In that Perry fight that we saw earlier in Orlando, what I think we saw more than anything with Max Griffin is that he can put a game plan together, and Mike Perry can be planned for. If you don't try to bruise with him and you pick him apart. So I don't know how good that win really looked, because he never really outclassed Perry in any. He cut him up. He hurt him once or twice, but it was really low output. Griffin's got good takedown defense, okay takedown defense. Can't get up off of the ground, and really not too much of a ground game that we've seen other than defensively. He doesn't look like he gets in bad positions. Melender isn't going to take it there at all. I think this stays a kickboxing match. I could also see this being a fight of the night contender, because I think these boys are going to bang. I got Melender decision. I I want to lean towards a TKO, but I got to give Griffin a little. I think he can also game plan for someone like Melender and just kind of stay away and turn it into a boring decision, if not more of the finish. I have Melender finishing here, but Griffin has the type of power to put anyone out. I'm going to be cautious in this one. I got Melender decision right now. It's tentative. Tentative. Who do you have winning this bout?
I think Max Griffin's a dark horse in the division. I like everything I'm seeing for his growth. I think he has better cardio than anyone gives him credit for. I think he's a lot stronger in the clinch than anyone thinks he's going to be. I'm worried about Melinder's cardio, and I always just get really scared of this kind of hype train. I mean, he's hot AF coming out of the LFA. LFA is awesome. The fighters are awesome, but they're not UFC. And so the knee against Thiago Alves, I think Thiago's kind of
it's a good point.
one of those aging guys.
Yep.
I think Max Griffin is one of those guys, and in my opinion, he pieced apart. I didn't want him to because I had Mike Perry. Sure, I'm a fan of Mike Perry.
We were there. We were there.
Fan of Platinum. But in my
opinion,
opinion, even in my biased eyes, Platinum got picked apart everywhere. And so I'm going to give Max Griffin tons of credit here. I think he's being overlooked, and I got Griffin by decision.
I could totally see that. I think you have very good points, and this is much closer than the lines have it. Minus 165 for Melender. It's too much. This is that minus 115 type of a fight for sure. I do think if there's a play here, it is a underdog or pass. Curtis Melender also on DraftKings, 8,700 against 7.5. I could see Griffin also being a wager gauge potentially there, but I'm squeaking out Melender right now.
I just had a vision that one day when we have full studio with a soundboard, and if you do underdog or pass, it's going to do bark, 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 or... But it won't say bark. It'll be dogs barking.
Dogs don't say bark.
Arf. My dog says arf. Arf.
He does.
Arf.
So
it spells out and floats in the air. A-R-F. A-R-F.
To the 135ers, we have a premier fight. This one is so fucking juicy. We have Rob motherfucking Font versus Rafael Assunção. Assunção's only lost in the UFC one time in his entire career. He is 25-5, and that was to TJ, the current champion, Dillashaw. And he had a win over Dillashaw, and that was the rematch where Dillashaw actually won in a decision.
And he looked weird in that fight, like he had a really hard weight cut or something.
I think he had a bad shoulder in like the first round after that TJ second fight. So Rob Font being 15-3 has only gotten his losses in the UFC. I've been a big hyper on Rob Font, losing to Munoz in his last two, but last coming off of a win to Alameda. Correctly predicted here, but I think that's more of a call against Alameda than anything. This is a humongous step up forward. Lineker for Rob Font, definitely hard fight. He doesn't have to worry about the power of Lineker here because Assunção has never really put people out, but what Assunção is the truest form of a top 5 gatekeeper that there is. If you can beat Rafael Assunção, you deserve a title shot very, very soon after. A lot of people have tried to beat him and not been able to because takedown defense is in the 80% at this division, maybe 60% for Assunção, but good strike defense, great punch output, amazing cardio, on the ground black belt, like
cool last name.
Rafael Assunção's only lacking detriment in fights for him is not even his fight IQ, is that he doesn't have punching power, and sometimes he doesn't try to go for the submission when he should, and he'll let it back up to striking because he'll be picking him apart in a boxing match. Rob Font, though, great crisp Muay Thai, taller, definitely has a 2-inch reach advantage, or 2-inch height advantage with a 5 and 4-inch reach advantage. Rob Font has a straight right that is a piston down the front, has good leg kicks, okay takedown defense. On the ground, we've seen Font be a little neutralized. Rafael Assunção can definitely get him there, has good takedowns as well. I think this is going to be, like we were saying earlier, a lot of cage work, a lot of on the outside. Rafael Assunção's really hard to hit, but he can be hit. TJ Dillashaw, you need to look at that fight and see how that split decision came about. I do think Rob Font can emulate that. I just see him as an up-and-comer still at 35 years old. But I just like Font's style. He has a little more power, and his gas tank is more than serviceable. I'm going to end up going with Font decision, but I know I got an underdog in this fight. Who do you have?
A Sun Tzu decision easily. I think he can he could get hurt in places, but just he is better than Font everywhere.
I agree.
I don't know I don't know where, but the big but is the 35 years old. Hopefully, because this division, they're not taking as many hard punches. Maybe we see long careers, but also it's required that they're faster in this division. So we don't know if the age will matter. I just still have a Sun Tzu anywhere. At least in the last 4 years or 3.5 years, he's just looked. Oh, I was getting nervous about him, but at least his last 2 fights, he's made me feel very great about him. So I just think he's doing better things everywhere, but I still think Rob Font is one to watch. A Sun Tzu.
A Sun Tzu. So, little disclaimer.
Sun Tzu.
Have bet on Font against Lineker and against Munoz. So, the 2 losses he has, I pretty much bet Font the entire time, and he's won more than he's lost for me, but this is a really tough one, and the line is right. I think plus 150 for Rob Font against minus 170 for a Sun Tzu, almost 2-1 favorite. Yeah, Sun Tzu's better all the way around. I think it could be a changing of the guard position. Tentative. Onto, though, is this the headlining? No, this isn't. This is the preliminary headlining event. We have 170 pound
I might be wrong, but I think this... Hold on. Oh, no.
We got one more.
Is this the opener of the...
FS1?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I remember hearing something crazy about it. Like a Sun Tzu Font might be the main event on a Fight Pass. I don't know. It's really crazy.
It could be the Fight Pass headline. That's right. Okay, something like that could be happening. But
so Felder Perry, I don't know. This is such a huge fight for a prelim. Any way you cut it, this is a huge. This could have been the fight for. Remember, we were talking about there could be one fight that could have carried and made the whole last night card better, and they should have swapped out that. This is the fight that I would have. This is the one I'd rather see go 5 rounds.
But the thing that's happening with this fight is the short notice of it, and
I know
Paul Felder's moving up to 170 from 155 because James Vick, if you don't know what's going on in the background, James Vick's taking a fight with Justin Gaethje because Al Iaquinta fell out of the fight in that main event later on, so that left Paul Felder with somebody to have to fight. Mike Perry's opponent fell out a week and a half ago. Paul Felder says, "What? I don't have to cut weight, fight you at 170?" Paul Felder's always been a huge 155er, walks around at 185.
And he was in training camp because he was supposed to fight.
Cut to 155. He was saying that he's still at like 185 now and has to cut to 170, but that's way more doable than 55 ever would be at this point. The thing is that Mike Perry was also getting for a fight, so he was getting down and getting ready to cut, and he's a humongous 170 pounder as well. Like,
he's a norm.
So we're going to have Felder being, who should be a 65er, be a small 170er against somebody who's 200 pounds who cuts down to 70. Paul Felder is the decided favorite in this fight. On the betting lines, in the tap lines, everybody sees it because if Max Griffin can put a game plan together with good takedown defense and just not refusing to brawl with Mike Perry, he can win this fight, and that's exactly how to do it. What I just recently heard, though, Mike Perry talking about he changed up his camps, went to a new camp because all
my
of his
favorite camp.
So he definitely ended
Didn't
up.
Didn't he go to JW?
No, he went UFC.
I thought he went to Jackson Wink.
I think it was. Was it?
I think he went to JW.
I think it might. It doesn't have it on the tap right now, and I don't want to miss. I wanted to say top team, but it might be Winklejohn. But he was talking about how he surrounded himself around yes men, and that's what happened in that Griffin fight. He was never challenged at that camp at all, where now he is again. And I'm going to have to go with the underdog because I just see the value. And Perry, I know he can get picked apart. Paul Felder is a way better kickboxer. better on the ground, but Perry, size advantage. This is Tito Ortiz versus Chael Sonnen. It's not who's technically better. It's who has the just size. Tito Ortiz versus Volkan. All these weird Bellator fights where one guy's moving up 2 divisions and then it's like, yeah, he got beat in 15 seconds via submission. Why? Because he gave up 40 pounds. Like, it does end up mattering. It's why heavyweights don't fight lightweights. But I have Perry. I had Felder up until right now. I have Mike Perry winning TKO
because of that JW.
And we have a 200-pound guy that's fighting a heavy 185er. That's 15 pounds of muscle.
Has Paul Felder looked amazing his last few fights? Yes.
He's looked good.
He knocked out Stevie Ray, you guys.
Exactly.
Like, he knocked out, who else did he knock out? Charles Oliveira. That was Charles Oliveira, who probably fights more a year than any other UFC fighter. I don't know, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
The thing I like about Mike Perry, not only being at Jackson Wink, and maybe Paul Felder still is a more well-rounded MMA fighter. Who has a better chin here? In my opinion, it's Mike Perry. I think he's taken more power shots from bigger guys. Yep. Also, another question is, Paul Felder might be more accurate, but I think Mike Perry's going to have significantly more power, and that power will land. And I also have the underdog. I'm feeling a little platinum. I got a Perry knockout round 3.
Woo! I actually moved it to a rockout TKO number 1 because I think
a rockout.
Felder's going to be like, oh shit, this guy hits way harder than I've ever, even though he says he trains with bigger guys and stuff, which Paul Felder has toughness. The plus 135 underdog, Mike Perry, against the minus 155 debuting 155er, Paul Felder. On DraftKings, though, this is really interesting. 8,800 on DraftKings for Mike Perry against the 7,400 for Paul Felder.
The money's on Felder, in my opinion, there.
On DraftKings only, specifically. Because if he wins, it's decision only, right? That's the only way I see Felder winning this fight. And it's the leg kicks because pronounced heavy front leg for Perry. But if he's at Winklejohn, like I said, everything he said was exactly what you want to hear from a young man. I needed a new camp that tested me against pros. Wow. You did that. Good motherfucking job. Let's make some money. Underdog right now, plus 135. Put money on it. Is that our underdog for this week? The second underdog for this week because we got 2 cards?
No, I don't even know yet. I don't even know. It's too early in the night to talk about underdog.
That's how fun this card is. Woo!
I think the points are on Perry. The points are for Felder. He could easily pick apart the decision. That's not what you're looking for Mike Perry to do, and that's one of the great things about him is he's not fighting for a decision. Will Jackson Wink change that about him? I don't think so. I think he's just going to be smarter about finding the openings for the power shot. He wants to fight for excitement. That's kind of his gig.
Right.
And I like fighters that do that. We all do.
I totally
So you're really just... And so Felder fighting on that short notice to change for a whole power puncher, go up in weight. I don't like the moving up in weight so quick unnecessarily because I was really liking the way Paul Felder was starting to put it together at 155. This is just weird.
He just wanted to fight. He was really has been out for a long, long time and was willing.
Platinum's a big name right now. He's built a big name for himself. If he goes out and wins this fight, it does a lot for him. And then it opens up 2 divisions for him as well. He puts himself in the Cowboy Cerrone where the more divisions you have, the more opportunities you have.
The more fights is the more fights, and that's money. It ends up translating to that.
And I also think Paul Felder would be an amazing tweener. He could be a champion of a 160 division. 165.
165. Yeah. Totally. So on to the preliminary main event. We got a banger. If you haven't heard that before tonight, you're going to hear it a few more times because that's how stacked this fight night is on Saturday. I am so excited. We have the biggest favorite of the night, minus 400, Paulo Costa against Uriah Hall at 185 pounds. Somebody's going night-night.
It's going to be fast.
Somehow.
This is going to be a fast fight.
You're going to be able to definitely have a couple drinks in between the half an hour break you have into the main card pay-per-view, because they like to start up timely, we have the perfect 11-0 Costa against Uriah Hall's 13-8 record. Uriah Hall, the 33-year-old, against the 27 Costa, they both like to strike. They both like to keep it standing. Uriah Hall's actually thrown a few takedowns in his fights and used them advantageously to finish people like Jutko in his make it or break it fight. If Uriah Hall didn't win that fight, he was going to be let go. He was on a 3-fight losing streak. Then again, the competition level for Uriah Hall has been high level.
And don't you think he has a big name?
Huge name.
Huge name in the sport. And from like Jamaica, being one of the bigger guys from like a small little place. I think he would have stayed even if he lost.
Yeah, his fighting style is conducive to him being
and
in
for
there.
the division, like he's a good guy to got. Like, here, look at this new guy we have coming up, Paulo Costa. You know, this young guy. Look at this. It's the perfect guy to. Whoop. He's like he's not as good as like a Ronaldo Souza, but he's of the same vein.
Who is the more cut fighter in this?
Oh, easily Paula Costa.
Easy, really? Because if you don't remember correctly, Uriah Hall almost died
To me,
from a weight cut last time.
This is like...
Rose Namajunas has PTSD from watching Uriah Hall almost die in the lobby. Remember that?
Tavares, I thought it was from the dolly in the window. I thought she had post-traumatic stress.
No. Oh, no, that's what I heard.
Connor's lawyers, you listening? That's a little tip from the bean there. Maybe you could, Connor, if that helps you anywhere.
Just like, oh, I thought.
We could use some new microphones. They can be green. Like, it's cool. Yeah, I just think Paulo Costa, he gives Brad Tavares a run for the hottie.
So
money.
hottie with your body.
Yeah.
So
He is
definitely
so
hogwatch
good-looking.
going on. Has been able to keep that fight pretty because he blitzes people with a heavy strike output. Most of his fights finish in the first round. He's been able to do it to most people. Has a capoeira spinning heel shit type of capability in there. But Uriah Hall will throw a spinning heel in your face at any point in time. Ask Greatguard Mousasi. Ask a lot of these guys to that body shot. The thing with Uriah Hall is that the spinning attacks and some of the fight IQ that Uriah Hall has, it doesn't seem like he plans it. Because he'll throw 3 spinning kicks on there, and none of them will even be close to landing. And then the 4th one, somebody will duck into it. So he'll kind of get a flash almost type of a knockout. He really relies on surprising people instead of setting up his shots. Where I feel like Costa sets up his shots, blitzes you more. I like Costa here, but minus 400 is way too steep against somebody like Uriah Hall. I have Costa in this decision. I have him finishing in the second round, but I'm not going to put money on Costa here. Minus 400 is way too steep. Way too steep. It's 2-1 favorite, not 4-1. Minus 400.
What about 3-1?
Nope.
3-1.
Nope.
Because I have a finish as well in the second round for Paulo Costa. I think he is such a blitz. When you said blitz, the song Blitzkrieg Bop, like that's he just friggin' comes forward. Yeah, it's just like it almost doesn't even give the other guy the way Holly Holmes fought her last fight. Speaking of that JW, it's like it's such an attack of the senses. It doesn't even give you time to breathe. It seems so smothering. Added up with power and youth and what seemingly seems like great cardio and what we've seen so far. Has it been the caliber experience of Uriah Hall? I don't think so, but experience is so last year. Like his experience, a lot of it is old experience. Like the Jutko fight, or Jutko, however you say it.
He's getting beat to shit, by the way.
And it is his only real recent fight. Isn't everything else really, it's old.
A year, 9 months ago, yeah.
Gegard Mousasi has fought like 2 fights in Bellator.
And like 2 in the UFC.
And is about to fight a 3rd one.
Yeah.
In this time. And I just feel like the fighter, I don't know. I also have a round 2 finish and maybe a 3-1 favorite. But I got to think everybody else is seeing that.
So for 9,400 on DraftKings,
is
are you willing to put Costa on some of your cards for that finish ability? I think he's the highest price against the 6'8" Uriah Hall. Ugh.
Yeah, he's going to knock him out.
Wow.
I feel like the end is near, and so Uriah Hall faces his final curtain. That was a little Frank Sinatra.
Woo! Way to start off the pay-per-view.
That's pretty American.
Main card, very American. A lot of mafioso ties in there. Definitely kept it going. So,
and
as the show goes on.
this fight, in my opinion, the fight we're going into. Go ahead, announce it.
Main event is starting off. You're gonna have to spend 60 bones to get this motherfucker in HD. We're going to Vegas, starting it off hot with two other bangers. We banging all over this place. It's gonna be all banged out before the night's over.
Could have easily been on last night's fight card to make it a more
on Friday night.
Fight.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Don't you think?
1,000,000%. Because this is gonna. What other adjectives can I use? This is gonna be a slobber knocker. I don't want to use that. This is gonna be a.
Hopefully, or if it goes past 3 minutes, it could be
gas city. But I think both of these fighters, in their gas states, still just try to knock you out. They both know what they want to do in there. Neither fighter throws any amount of takedowns in there. And if they both even try, they're going to be garbage, trash, hot trash takedowns. But they both make their money striking. We have Gokhan Saki against Khalil Roundtree. Roundtree being 6-2. Last losing to Michelle Oskalik, but that was turned over. Olienchik, what was that? It was a decision. It was turned over. I think he popped for steroids. But if you know how to beat Roundtree, it's ground game. You take him down, and he's not able to get up. Tyson Pedro did that to him. Khalil Roundtree, though, if he keeps it up striking, he has devastating power.
I thought Paul Craig had a decent ground game.
Yeah, but Paul Craig also has very limited striking defense, and that's exactly what Khalil Roundtree needs. Because if he lands a couple of those shots and starts to put together a finishing combination, he can. But if you have a good enough chin, he'll gas himself out in that flurry. Paul Craig wasn't able to withstand that.
Who is Gokhan Saki?
He's a Muay Thai striker coming out of the Glory scene, being a top contender in Glory, has fought, is a 1-1 professional fighter, beat Henrik Frankenstein, the motherfucking Silva, one of the worst fighters in the UFC.
You know how I feel about that.
You know how we feel about this Brazilian trash bag. And Gokhan Saki got hurt multiple times in this fight, ended up knocking him out at the end of the first round, but was all sorts of gassed as well. I would say as gassed as Khalil Roundtree. So, what I did see in that Gokhan fight against Henrik was against pressure. Gokhan will sit back. He's willing to do that Glory kickboxing style where Gokhan Saki will cover up and just let somebody barrage on him, and then he'll wait for his punches come back and finally get back. But he'll take damage to the body, and he really relies, to me, what I saw was boxing gloves. He puts up his defense like boxing gloves. Guess what kind of gloves we got in MMA, homie? We got 4-ounce motherfucking gloves. Khalil Roundtree knows how to put those punches into those pockets. It's whether people take him down or not. Gokhan Saki's not going to shoot a takedown. Not going to happen.
And neither is Khalil.
And neither is Khalil. But I think that MMA striking-wise, MMA striker, Khalil Roundtree is a much better MMA striker. At any time, Gokhan Saki can land a counter right or left that can put Roundtree. But at any time, Roundtree can land one. This is a must-watch. You have to pay for the pay-per-view for this. And we got another one that is in this category of you got to watch because it's going to be so fun. I got Roundtree. TKO round number 1. I got an underdog. How do you go?
I got Roundtree KO too. Who's Gokhan Saki? I know it's crazy. Everyone's like, who's Gokhan Saki? He's a Muay Thai fighter. He's done all this stuff. I agree. But MMA is a little different. And Olienchik has, going to decision in that fight was grinding because I always think he's an underrated fighter. Also, Paul Craig has an okay ground game, does keep a good clinch, does take a lot of damage. So Khalil had to throw a ton of punches, That might have been a fast fight. Was that a fast fight, that Roundtree went? I feel like Paul Craig it might have gone into the second round. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was the first round.
No, I think it was the first round.
I don't know shit about Jolly. And then Tyson Pedro, I like Tyson Pedro. So that's
Jolly's horrible.
The submission isn't anything big there. Yeah. De Silva, not a huge thing to me. I got Roundtree KO round 2. But I don't know if I'm going to put it everywhere because I just don't really trust him. And I'm not as excited about this fight as you. This is not like... Really? I wouldn't buy a pay-per-view for this.
Oh my gosh!
I would not buy a pay-per-view. This would not be the seller for me.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a main event. But I'm thinking, like, if you're going to get the pay-per-view at all, you got to... Yeah, well, of course you're going to watch them all because you're paying for it, so that don't make no damn sense. But this is, again, you had it spot on. Make this the finale headliner, and we good, homie. This should be the finale headliner because it has potential for fireworks over the 4th of July. But if it went 5
rounds, you set up... Oh, that's so damaging.
This fight ain't going past 1.
This fight. No.
But there's a little prop bet for you. So, Gokhan Saki... 8,400 on DraftKings against the 7,800 for Roundtree.
I see Roundtree finishing by knee.
Worth every cent on DraftKings and the plus 115.
But I'm nervous. I'll probably only put him on like 25.
Or underdog.
25%.
25%. I think that's right.
I won't put Gokhan Saki anywhere.
On to the 155ers. We have Anthony Pettis against Michael Chiesa. This was reworked due to the dolly. Little PTSD move this down due to cut to the face and forehead of Michael Chiesa. That was how many months ago now? Did that happen?
2?
2 months ago? Somewhere around there. So their wounds have started to heal. Over a year ago, Michael Chiesa lost to Kevin Lee, but before that, getting a 3-fight winning streak, being 13-3, Chiesa's on his way up, where Anthony Pettis is a former champion, Wheaties title contender, has really been win one, lose one for a while, coming off of a loss to Poirier due to rib injury 7 months ago. Poirier said it best, I didn't break that rib, I broke the man. And that's what you have to do to Anthony Pettis in order to get him out of there, and people have started to see that. It's unfortunate for him because he was one of the best of all time. Highlight reel, 4 days. We know what we're getting with Pettis. Great striking on the ground. Can submit the best of him. But in a grinding battle, is able to get beat up in fights. Michael Chiesa can do that. Actually tends to do that. Usually loses that first round. Comes back and wins via submission in the second or third. Gets a grinding fest. That Kevin Lee loss, always going to say it was a little... He never tapped, so that one's always a bit iffy. But Michael Chiesa likes to give up his back a little too much, which is scary. And also, that left body kick that Anthony Pettis has knocked out Cerrone, Miller, who else? He knocked out a couple other guys with that body shot. I think Benson Henderson. He hurts a lot of people. Chiesa's open for that. And I think that could change the game in this fight. But with Pettis, we always say here, he breaks a lot. He always says, I broke my hand in that fight. I broke my foot in that fight. I broke a rib in that fight. I broke an eye socket in that fight. I think it's just a matter of time till something happens in the grueling bout and Chiesa ends up capitalizing. I got a submission, if not TKO, round number 2 or 3. I do think Chiesa has to wear it a little bit. But after that, once Pettis can't get him out of there, I think it's cruise to maybe a 29-28 decision. I'm going to go with decision for Chiesa. How do you feel this one ends up by the end of the night?
I'm a little nervous about Chiesa's soft skin. I do think his last fight against Kevin Lee was a tad early called. I do think the same outcome would have been there. And I think looking back on that loss with the potential of Kevin Lee's future of his career, we will one day look at Mike Chiesa with a whole bunch of green, wins, and then he lost to Kevin Lee, because I think Kevin Lee is going to be amazing, like one of those guys, like he's a future Hall of Famer. Yeah. I think he's, and also Anthony Pettis, future Hall of Famer for all, for everything being said. Anthony Pettis only loses to the best of them, and Michael Chiesa is the best of them. Anthony Pettis is susceptible to get submitted, and Michael Chiesa can submit you. As long as there's not if I see what you're saying with the soft body, I just think instinctually if that were to happen with Michael Chiesa, how long he is, he's just gonna go close, pull close for long enough to get his composure and then go for a submission from there. And the other fighter instinctually is going to want to keep Michael Chiesa at bay. So it puts up a weird conundrum, but I do think he has soft ass skin. That's the only thing I'm worried about, is it getting called for a weird gnarly cut on his forehead or something like that. But otherwise, I got Chiesa by submission round 3. I'm so glad Anthony Pettis, if I see him keep fighting, I want to see it at 155. I never want to see him at 145 again. And his chin might be wobbly enough, but how does Anthony Pettis look at 170? He would be a great tweener. I'd love to see Anthony Pettis go maybe to 165.
I would agree with that.
So I got Michael Chiesa submission round 3. I still like both guys a little going forward, and I'm going to put money on Chiesa, but...
What about for 8,600 on DraftKings for Chiesa against the 7,600 for Pettis? Do you think that's a little inflated?
I think they should be closer, for sure.
I agree.
I think it's a little inflated as well.
So, actually, betting-wise, minus 155 for Chiesa against the underdog plus 135. I feel like that's about right. We're talking our way through that, picking the favorite. On to black-on-black crime. This is going to be something you're going to have to hide your kids, hide your wife, because...
Hide your Ronda Rousey posting.
Travis Brown, take your girl out to dinner because you ain't going to be watching this. You're going to get a call out. We're going to have to hear some sort of antics from one of these fighters. We have Francis, the Predator Ngannou, against Derek, the Black Beast, Lewis. This has been a fight that we've been itching for years now. We've been calling for it for a long time here at LaTB. Finally coming around.
We would have the shirt. We just don't know how it will come across, but we want the My Ngannou.
Yep.
You My Ngannou shirt. Holler out at us. Let us know how you feel about that shirt. And if we're allowed to do it, we don't want to step on anyone's toes or for anyone to think it's... I don't mind if it's a little fucking blue humor, but I don't want somebody to think we're racist or being insensitive or something.
So, I have a little funny story about Evil Twin. We haven't talked about him much, but he hasn't been saying anything as of value, really. But, is this a crazy bet or not? Evil Twin bet me that this fight is not going to make it to the ring. He put 10 bones that Derek Lewis falls out of this fight before they ever show up to the ring. 10 bones on it. I'm like, Evil Twin, give me that money, because Derek Lewis has proven that he's went in with a bad back, bad ankle, bad foot, and still lost the fight and been like, well, I was hurt. But rarely has he been like, all right, I'm not going to go. Like, once a contract's signed, he's going to get paid and then be like, all right, I'll deal with the consequences
Derek Lewis is
later.
making good money at his weight size, or his weight class. So we know the bigger guys tend to make a lot more money.
Quick.
I think it showed. I think the fight and 265 he weighed in at his last... How much did he weigh? Yeah, 265. Yep. Am I wrong for his last fight? He actually weighed in at that.
He has to cut.
Yeah, as long as it makes weight. It's funny, both guys have to cut to get to weight, huh?
Both guys have to cut for two totally different reasons. Derek Lewis, do you remember
If it falls out, it only falls out because a time traveler came here so that they wouldn't make connection and throw the Earth off its orbit into outer space.
So are you saying Evil Twin has a time machine? Possibly.
I don't know if he has one or knows someone who has one.
Possibly. Good
that
point.
Twin shit is weird.
So, Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou. We know with Derek Lewis throws heavy overhand right through.
But I thought it was going to be about the fight. I was like, I don't know.
Fight.
Yeah, I know, but that's an easy bet. That's not even a 50-50 bet. I'm like, I'll take
crazy.
that. That's like a 1 in 10 bet at best. Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take that.
Like for him, a 1 in 10.
Yeah, I just want him to listen to the show to be like, yeah, I called you out, sucker, because then he tried to make some other bullshit. He tried to make some other bullshit ass bets and be like, I'll take that bet for $10. I'm like, nah, brah.
We tried to hedge it, and you were like,
no, I want one bet.
Miracle Girl.
Yeah, exactly.
No hedging over here.
Yeah, we good, homie.
Put your hedges away.
So with the Black Beast, 1 and 2 bunch combinations, pretty much an overhand right.
You trying to get a landscaping job? Put your hedges away.
Derek Lewis will throw some kicks in there. Francis Ngannou, I think actually Derek Lewis beat Ngannou, or did Daniel Cormier beat Ngannou's punching power on the UFC punch box, whatever thing?
I have no idea.
Oh, I think they're all in the top contenders for hardest hitters, but the gas tank is what's definitely the most lacking with Derek Lewis. He knows that he's in there for 2-3 rounds. 3-round fights benefit him the best. 1-round fights benefit him the best because he's gassed after the first. Francis Ngannou also showing that he has all sorts of gas tank issues, especially in a 5-rounder against a champ. What Ngannou doesn't have to worry about here is the wrestling. Derek Lewis ain't going to in there and wrestle you or dirty box. Francis Ngannou has good enough clinch to get out of it. He's able to dirty box on the way outside, puts 5-punch combinations, but both of these guys are fairly lacking in their striking. For heavyweights, they're good strikers, but if you were to put these guys at 155, they'd get picked apart. It's just their size and brute strength is able to overcome so much. This is going to be a sloppy fight, but it's going to be a fight where somebody's going 9. I hope it doesn't go to decision because it'll turn into a boring fight, but I could see it turning into one fighter throws 2 punches, the other fighter throws 2 punches. One fighter throws 2 punches, the other, and then it's all of a sudden.
This could be the most boring fight of all time.
Or it could be
over in
10 seconds.
round 1.
Yeah, in the first punch. So, it's a coin flip. The fact that people are going moderate favorite minus 380 for Ngannou, 2-1 at the best. This is way too inflated for me. I think it's a dog or pass. I do have Ngannou winning a decision. If not, I want to go decision because I'm so tentative on it. But I think Derek Lewis is a dog or pass as far as the betting lines. It's too much of a favorite. Ngannou hasn't done anything that amazing other than Overeem, who is the chiniest fighter in the heavyweight division. I got Ngannou's decision. Who are you picking?
I think Ngannou might be worth it. I think he actually... I love Derek Lewis. I love the Black Beast. He's no Stipe Miocic. Stipe said everyone that gave him shit like, oh, he said Ngannou was hard to finish. And for all intents and purposes, for Derek Lewis to say like, oh, this is what the fight would have looked like if it happened earlier. Ngannou went 5 rounds with Stipe Miocic. No offense, Derek Lewis. You're not Stipe Miocic, and I don't know if I've ever seen you in 5 rounds, nor do I ever want to see you in 5 rounds. So the fact that, and not that I think at all, I don't think Francis Ngannou was trying to conserve energy. I think he was trying to knock Stipe's head off in those fights. I don't think Derek Lewis is going to move like Stipe moves, so I think he's going to be able to knock his head off. I don't think Derek wrestling's as good, so I don't think he's going to get Francis down. So I kind of see Francis a little better everywhere, and the amount of composure I see him having right now and class I see him having, he's really stepped back and humbled himself a little bit in his loss. And I always think a fighter who humbles himself in loss always comes out and does something pretty spectacular the next time around. So I still like Francis a little going forward. You guys, if you listen to the show, you know I'm a little biased on Francis, but I think I show you the same bias for Derek Lewis. So take it for what it is. I got Ngannou. I think he finds the chin in round 1. I don't even think he has to wait. I think he has better hands than Derek Lewis has a chin.
So, you know that for this heavyweight bout, anytime we have Ngannou
Francis,
on,
you my Ngannou.
You know that we got that Ngannou, but you're going to be on high alert at the weigh-ins because this is going to be a double hog watch, heavy-duty double sausage. You're going to get your fill in this fight card. Be sure to be ready. On to the code.
If we have any ball hogs listening, any Peyton Laffertys, there's going to be one. Any ball hogs.
So,
have you seen the movie Rampage?
No. The one with The Rock Johnson?
Yeah.
No.
That's what I think this is going to be like. A Rampage. That I haven't seen it either.
Oh, okay.
So I don't even know if I just said something really bad.
Yeah, I think it's a trash movie.
I kind of think this fight may be a trash fight.
I could kind of see that.
You know how you say
but
it's a dog or pass fight? I think it's a KO round 1 or pass fight. And the danger part is because the first fight on this was that if both of those fights go to decision, this whole fight takes such a that, I mean, you got 2 of the best fights of the year.
Easily.
If those 2 fights were on the pay-per-view alone, I would get it.
Just those 2 fights?
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But real quick, on DraftKings, 9,300 for Ngannou against 6,900 for Derek Lewis. Oh, I see a wager gager in Derek Lewis, even though we're both picking Ngannou. Unless it's a TKO round number 1, then Ngannou's worth every cent. But that's a big if. If we both see it shitty, I'm going to have 25% of this fight. I'm not going to go crazy. Maybe have some Lewis on like 10-15% of DraftKings.
I agree.
Fights.
I agree with all that.
So
that is a good ass messment.
If we would ever have a co-main event truly be worthy of a co-main event where it is the exact same as the main event, this is the fight. We have a 145-pound challenger in Brian Ortega T-City against Max Holloway. This could be the main event on any other card, and it's worthy of a main event. That's
agree with that.
This is a true co-main event.
But I don't think it is quite the super fight that Stipe DC is.
The only reason is because DC's contending in 2 divisions, correct?
No, I think DC and Stipe both there. If you took all their they're both
careers,
future Hall of Fame. Yeah, both their careers and lined them up on a thing. They're 2 of the
Hall of
guys.
Famers.
They're 2 of the greats, and to watch them both fight in kind of the right stage of their career, to still want to see them both fight each other, it's pretty spectacular. These 2 young lions. These 2
fights.
We're gonna watch them. We're watching them both start their prime, which is earlier than any primes we've ever seen.
Yep.
And they're both there. And these 2 young lions we're going to see fight for years to come.
Oh, totally. And a few other weight classes
I totally agree.
And a few that are not staying at 145. The 26-year-old Max, the champ Holloway, blessed himself against the 27-year-old T-City Ortega. Not 14-0 against the 19-3 Holloway. Holloway is defending his title for the second time, or is this is the second time? Because he won it from Aldo, or he won it against Aldo. Yeah. So this is a hell of a title defense. T-City is coming off with his perfect record, last beating Frankie Edgar 3 months ago. Nobody saw that TKO. Was that in Orlando? No,
we didn't get to see the answer.
No, we didn't. That was no. But beating Cub Swanson and also beating the likes of Clay Guida, Carnero, Diego Brandao. These Frankie Edgar definitely being that marquee win. But that fight only made it to what, the first round? Into the first round?
Yeah, it was fast.
It was pretty quick, so we didn't really get to see that distance in there. We didn't get to see the grind a bit as much. And Max Holloway makes grinding fights. Ask Conor McGregor. Ask anybody else who's ever been in there and been able to blessed Holloway. Cardio through the roof. Great punches on the inside. Straight punches, hard punches, and kicks. Ground game on point. But if Ortega has any advantage, it is on the ground. T-City is a Gracie disciple. He hits those triangles from all sorts of angles. He's incredibly tall at 5'9", but he's like 5'10", against the 5'11" Max Holloway. Max Holloway's taller than T-City. That doesn't seem right to me. T-City
taller
seems taller
and younger.
It doesn't seem
taller
right.
and younger.
It
Everybody
debuted
keeps talking about
so
Brian
much earlier.
Ortega like he's the young guy.
Up and comer. It's so weird. So weird. But what the biggest fight that I can really go back to and look at for T-City is that Clay Guida fight. Clay Guida was putting a wrestling clinic all over T-City, was beating T-City, and only because he finally ended up hurting him in the third round and getting that, with a few fights, I believe the Carnero and Brandao. Brandao was getting the best of T-City in that first and beginning at second until he gassed. Carnero winning that first as well. T-City eats a lot of punches. Striking is very underdeveloped, and he really flashes in his submissions because he'll jump over the top of you like he did on Cub Swanson, or Imanari roll and just get under you and tangle you up. Max Holloway's ground game, though, is very, very high up there, and Max Holloway can put a game plan together as good as anybody. What I really love in Max Holloway is every fight you see him, he has a different game plan, and it's specifically tailored to that fighter. Ortega does that as well, but Ortega, as you were saying, is coming into his own. Max Holloway has come into his own and has another level of own to come into, is how I feel it goes. There's a flash submission at any point in time in this fight. Really, Ortega can finish anybody, even Max Holloway, but in a 5-rounder, I have the experience, I have the quality of fighters. Max Holloway just winning all of those fights. I'm going to edge it out slightly decision in a 5-rounder, but either fighter can finish this at any point in time. It's really that gas tank. Ortega's never been 5 rounds, and we've seen him tired in 3. So I think Max Holloway really is a black belt in that cardio, and that's going to come to shine more than anything. Holloway decision. How do you feel this gets down?
In a weird way, this is Gracie Disciple versus Gracie Disciple. It's kind of all falling down of the pyramid of trained and who these guys... Everybody is assuming that T-City is the best grappler, and he's getting all this hype right now for all of his submissions and stuff, but I think Max is next level too, and yeah, he has fought a lot of strikers, but he is just... he's a black belt on the ground. He puts the fight where he wants to be. I do agree with you. Max has already found himself, and by the time everybody else finds him, he's working on the next level. Like, the exact same thing, but they're training on old Max, and he's a brand new Max every time he gets in the ring. We even saw what he could do to a guy like Jose Aldo with those 2 fights. We saw his computer, what he took from their first fight, and how quickly it dismantled Aldo. So, yeah, I understand that the answer had never been knocked out. I do understand that. And if you look at the kinetic energy of how Brian stood up, it wasn't just an uppercut from hell. It was like his whole body landed on, uppercut into Frankie Edgar. That same thing would have happened if Max Holloway fought him too again. I believe that Max Holloway would have knocked out Frankie Edgar. They just didn't get to meet. It was just that fight that didn't happen. It was just Frankie's time, his age, his everything, long career, so much tape to watch, game plan very similar every time going around. So I love Brian Ortega still going forward. He hasn't fought another enormous guy like him that's used to the friggin' cut, that's used to the spotlight, that has no pressure, no ego, and as zen as Brian Ortega, I think he likes to be. He has so much pressure. He wants to prove for his camp, not just himself. This is so important for his camp too, and I think his last fight, he went out there and connected, quick knockouts, but we say it here all the time. Sometimes there's 3-round decisions. The guy has so much more to take. There's so much more, so... I got to go with Max here all day. I think he wears this belt for a long time to come. He is the lion of this division. He's not going to get knocked out. Brian Ortega does not have Conor McGregor power, and Max took those punches, just like you were saying. Could he get submitted? Yeah, a flash submission could come. You were so right on that.
Excuse me.
Gazoon. But you were so right on that flash submission where either guy. But... we always see T-City have this height advantage that he is not going to have with Max. So those over-the-head triangles aren't going to really happen the same way.
What you were saying, though, with that specific punch with Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega set that up with an elbow first, but with that elbow, that chambered or lack of chambered uppercut, the reason you call it from hell is because he throws it from his pocket, which is not good boxing. Just throwing that out there.
And Max so if you're Holloway, going up against a guy like Max, and I come with that much opening, look at this.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Max
you're
Holloway
so right. You're
is
so
going to be like, what? You're going to throw from there? Bing, bing, bing. I'm going to hit you 3 times and your punch isn't going to land. So much fun. 8,300 on DraftKings.
It's 5 rounds. Holloway. I don't think T-City can go 5 rounds with Max Holloway. I love him. This fight is going to do nothing, but Max winning this fight is a win-win for both guys. And I just don't see T-City... I think Max can download the information of T-City, and I think he can finish it at the end of round 3, beginning of round 4.
Ooh. Ooh, that's where I like to make my props in those, especially on cardio guys like Max Holloway in that 4th and 5th round prop bet, because you're always getting in the thousands range. A lot of people don't think they'll get there, and 1,000 to anything, you're going to make some money off of it.
This fight's so great. It is a great fight.
It is such a good fight.
If the night stopped there, it would have been enough.
Totally. 8,300 on DraftKings for Max Holloway against a 7,900 for Ortega. A 5-rounder. I could see you stacking these guys. I'm definitely putting Max on a lot more because I know he can throw that amount of punches. Betting wise, minus 135 Max Holloway against a plus 125 Brian Ortega.
If a flash submission could come, T-City could flash submit.
Sure.
Like, I understand that, everybody. But
it's going to be a beating. It will be that Clay Guida where he'll be getting hit beat up until that happens. Clay Guida
blessed is best.
Woo!
Baby.
On to the main event heavyweights of heavyweights. We have a dual belt being contended for in the heavyweight division. 205 coming up, and Daniel Cormier against the greatest of all time, supposedly heavyweight, and Stipe Miocic having the most title defenses of all time. This is a super fight of super fights. Other than Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones, who else do these guys have to fight? Nobody.
No, this is it.
This is it. And everybody loves to see the heavyweights bang, especially at this level, because both of these guys are grinders. And that's something you don't get. As we were talking with other heavyweights earlier on the card, if this gets past the first, we're going to go into Slop City. This one gets past the first, it's a 155-pound bout.
And a craziest thing, even though these two aged vets, these two guys, two champions, two best in their class right now, this is like we're reading, this fight is setting up, it's like the first chapter of at least 3 fights to come. Regardless of who wins, the Jon Jones fight after it, for either guy, and the Brock Lesnar fight after that for either guy is super exciting. So to me, we're reading, this is so exciting. It could be the finale. It could be the end of a story, but it's not. It's the beginning of one, which is so intriguing. Go on. Sorry.
Life is a cycle. Life is a cycle. It is not a linear path. It definitely keeps moving over and over again. The 18-2 Stipe Miocic has only lost to Stefan Struve in the UFC. Daniel Cormier, the 205er moving up, has only lost to Jon Jones via decision. His head kick loss was overturned due to Jon Jones not getting his shit together and finding a way to beat himself, like always. But we have the 39-year-old Daniel Cormier, longtime veteran, against longtime veteran Stipe Miocic. Both of these guys are grinders. Both of them D1 wrestlers. Daniel Cormier, the Olympic wrestler, bronze medalist, national champion, same as Stipe Miocic. The boxing, though, the clean, crisp boxing goes to Stipe Miocic. He has a piston of a jab and a straight right that'll hurt the best of them. Stipe moves really well backwards and can throw those counter punches off of his back foot as good as anyone. Ask for Miso Verdum. Ask a lot of other guys that run directly forward into Stipe. He will finish you with that. Daniel Cormier does not run in on his punches in that fashion. Never has. And if there's an opening that we've seen with Daniel Cormier, it is left head kick. Guess what? Stipe Miocic has never thrown in any one of his fights.
Life.
Ever in his life, and they've asked him. I've seen many breakdowns, and he's like, oh, I've never thrown a kick in my life. So he ain't going to start. I guarantee you that. Ain't going to throw that. So this is going to turn into a grinding wrestling match. Kickboxing-wise, Daniel Cormier at AKA is a good kickboxer, throws good leg kicks, but we always know what DC wants to do. He wants to throw 2 punches and a kick into a single leg to then be able to throw you on top of your head over and over again. Look at any highlight reel of anybody other than Jon Jones. Jon Jones used the limp leg with a whizzer better than anybody ever has against the Olympic Daniel Cormier. Another Olympian, Dan Henderson, wasn't able to do that. He got tossed on his head multiple times. But we've seen Daniel Cormier fight up at heavyweight in Strikeforce. As you were saying before, you watched his Strikeforce, so you can see where the heavyweight comes in, where he's like, this isn't anything new. The difference, though, from that to now is 39 years old on a veteran career. Daniel Cormier has talked about how back in the day, heavyweight was no problem, but now he does have to change his training at because he used to go full bore now. And full bore, he'll be sore for 2 days. He can't afford that now. So he has changed his game plan, but really has embraced the grind. We know what we're going to get. It's going to be
DC.
It's two grinding, not kickboxers, because I think DC's the kickboxer against the boxer wrestler. And in our last fight, we have a specialist with the jiu-jitsu against an MMA guy, and I feel like this is kind of the same that's going on with DC, where DC is the better MMA fighter with specialties in wrestling, and Stipe specifically is a boxer wrestler. What ground game have we ever seen? He keeps everything standing. Stipe Miocic doesn't go to the ground, doesn't shoot, and always fights off takedowns. Daniel Cormier, single leg attack, transition to a double back to a single. Watch his fights. He's
picked
wrestles.
up the biggest guys. The biggest
other
guys.
than John Jones.
He's
the
picked
pound
up the
for
biggest
pound,
guys, yeah.
Greatest. I had Stipe all week long. All week long. I had Stipe winning this due to that grind, due to the punching power, but I think Lesbo and Evil Twin got me going the other way. I do see that single leg attack winning it.
I don't have DC. I said my wife had DC. She thinks that DC is going to have the better cardio. And she just sees DC winning by a decision.
I see DC winning by a decision as well. I had Stipe Miocic earlier on last episode.
She says that Kane's the better version of Stipe, and who do you think DC's been training with the whole time? That's her opinion.
It sounds like she might have a little MMA rubbing off on her every once in a while.
I think, okay, you think Kane's the better version of Stipe?
Good
Maybe
call.
if he was healthy, Stipe's still in there, still proving it. There's no way DC, as great as he punches, I just don't think he has the punching power of Ngannou. I'm not worried about the height of... The other thing my wife pointed out, she's like, DC's used to fighting taller guys.
And
like,
bigger
so the
guys,
height, like, that's easy. But Stipe is an in-shape guy at a heavyweight. He's in shape. He's built different than all these other heavyweights that are just dough in there. He has the best hands. I do think he has the knockout power. And DC's been knocked out now. He's been knocked out. I think... If you watch old tape on DC, and I watched a ton of it, he is super susceptible to inside elbows. So when he's coming to do a takedown, if I can regain my balance, which Stipe can, he has a really nice sprawl, even to the point where he looks like he's almost skiing backwards up to the fence. He'll come back up, use the fence, and he can push out and, like you said, fight off his back foot. That dangerous. If I'm watching those John Jones fights, those inside elbows, and fighting off your back foot, I see DC getting clipped as Stipe's moving out to the left. I can picture it all happening, and John Jones used it so well that it became dangerous for DC to even start to come in on John Jones. So I think if AKAs, I love them, but they're just doing the same thing. You can watch Khabib. The difference between Khabib and that camp is you can prepare for exactly what Khabib's doing, and it's whether or not you can weather the storm. It's like Maya. You can prepare for the exact game plan. It's whether or not you can weather the storm. That's kind of what DC's doing at this point, and I think Stipe, he plays dumb. He plays good old boy. I think he's really smart. And I think he's studying tapes and he is using the John Jones. He realized exactly what he's getting into. He's a super calm guy, and he's not going to have the worry of taking a Francis Ngannou punch with DC. So he's going to be able to prepare for these huge takedowns. And I do think DC is going to take down Stipe a few times. I think Stipe is just going to be able to weather the storm, and I think he figures DC out. I got Stipe KO round 4.
Wowza. For 8,900 on DraftKings, Stipe Miocic is a decided favorite against the 7,300 for Daniel Cormier. You have a finish. I have a decision. Betting lines also show that minus 230 favorite Stipe Miocic. I got a huge underdog with DC. I have a huge I feel like...
Because if they're on the feet, if Stipe can stuff the feet takedowns and they're on the feet... Stipe's going to pick him apart a little bit. I think Stipe has better boxing than John Jones.
Do you think Anthony Johnson could knock out Daniel Cormier. Could knock out most
You
people.
know what?
Has to be
Everyone
stronger.
kept saying that, like, and I haven't been impressed. In my opinion, the Anthony Johnson that DC saw was the after USADA Anthony Johnson that was just kind of. So I'm not really impressed by that. The guys that have kind of weathered the storm here, Stipe's not one of those guys that we saw take a huge dump. If anything, he's one of the guys we saw take a leap after USADA. So I think he's a little bit different of a monster than Anderson Silva.
Wow. Wow. So
I'm so curious though for if DC wins, I won't be sad because I love to see John Jones and DC at heavyweight and Brock and everything going forward. But if Stipe wins, I'm not sad to watch John Jones versus Stipe.
Not at all. Not at all.
Or Stipe versus Brock.
So, do you think this is a theory I've been hearing as well all over the Twitskis and stuff? Is that Daniel Cormier, if he loses, may retire? Just completely be done because he is 39. What else does he have to prove? 2 divisions.
If he loses, he should retire. There's no fights left.
It'll be the last, right? He has a commentating job.
If he wins, there's 2 fights left.
Either way, I'd want to see DC versus Brock Lesnar as well. Win or lose.
Yeah, win or lose. I
Win
want
or
to
lose.
see either. I think John Jones should get the winner of the fight and Brock should get the loser.
I love that. Do we have a Les Dog?
Oh my gosh,
we had
an underdog
a
pick?
couple underdog picks this night that we both had a consensus pick on.
What do you think?
A couple other consensus odds. Who do we have? Roundtree and...
Roundtree I'm nervous about.
I'm nervous too, but that's why it's an underdog. Who
I
is the
know,
other
but sometimes
one?
I'm not confident about... I just don't like the other guy. I might stay away from that fight altogether.
The other underdog we had was...
Griffin. Max Griffin?
No, I had Melender.
Oh.
Hooker was the favorite as well.
Linder. Who the...
Yeah, I think
That's
we
crazy.
only... Derek Lewis? Did you pick Lewis or Nagano?
Nagano.
I got Nagano's. No. It has to be Roundtree. There's nobody else.
Khalil.
No, wait. Perry. We both have Perry. He's the underdog.
Oh,
against-
yeah, let's make it platinum.
Okay, Platinum Perry.
Let's go platinum. Yeah, cool. I'll
Fix
make a
that
cool
one
thing for it.
quickly at the plus 135 as of right now.
I
My
love
Platinum
it.
Perry.
That's a breakdown.
Woo!
Happy Independence Day, and if you're not in America, I hope you're having a great Wednesday and a good day at work or...
And a hell of a fight weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. So give us a shout out, and we love you. Thank you.
Let's go the beat.
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.